never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house, and that's right. Today we have 3 special tea times. We have 3 incredible men that are going to be sharing some tea with us. And today we're starting off with Stephen Ford. So you guys know how Miss Liz works. You get over to Miss Liz's platform, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those good platforms, and get over to the podcast apps and give those a like and follow and subscribe, and you can get all of these incredible shows out there. Today we're talking with Stephen Ford, and we're sharing his tea, and his tea is taking everything apart. So let's jump into the disclaimer, and then we're going to get a good intro in here, and we're going to get Stephen in here, and we're going to spill some tea together. So disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by Miss Liz is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to these discussions. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about this disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz, or check out my link tree. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in this show in any aspect, I, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that this show is not made for you at this time, I respect your wishes and choice and welcome you back whenever you are ready at a later time and date. I want to give you a little bit on Stephen. So welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where we explore not just what someone has done, but who they become along the way. Today, I'm honored to welcome Stephen Ford. Stephen spent 4 decades in information technology, working across industries, across continents, and even during the early stages of AI and artificial intelligence development, from nuclear power stations to the security systems of the 2012 London Olympics. His career was rooted in precision, structure, and complex systems. But here's what I love. After retiring from the world, he stepped into another one entirely. Stephen became an author. He has now published 5 books, some award-winning and critically acclaimed, writing thought-provoking science fiction, dystopia fiction, and satire. His work explores powerful questions: free speech, nuclear war, artificial intelligence, and ultimately what it means to be human. Born in Durham, England, with a childhood that stretched across Africa and the Middle East, homeschooled before attending boarding school in England, Stephen's life has always carried movement, perspectives, and global awareness. A long-distance walker, hiker through the Alps and Carpathians, and married nearly 50 years to his wife, Daphne, an archaeologist who studied royal palaces. His story holds depth, endurance, curiosity, and commitment. Stephen, welcome to Tea Time. I'm looking forward to exploring not just the writer, but the man behind the words. Let me get Stephen in here and let's spill some tea. And Miss Liz I'm all over the place this morning because I have 3 tea times. Welcome, Stephen, to Tea Time.
Glad to be here.
So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about who you are as a little guy and who you are now.
Okay, well, I guess I've always had a sort of penchant to sort of express myself in writing. And although I went away from sort of that kind of thing by going into a technical field in IT for all those years, I always knew I had something, because people used to giggle when they read my technical reports. So I always tried to make the sort of technical stuff interesting. And then I got tired of wanting to throw things at the TV because of what was going on in the world. And I thought, yeah, I need to explore this, express myself, and what better way to do it than to write some novels. It's easy to say everyone's got a book in them, and that yeah, I kind of felt that, but actually there's more to it than being able to just sort of string words together in a way that's engaging or amusing. There's a craft to writing novels, and I had to learn that craft. And I'm not afraid to say that my first couple of attempts are not very good, but I like to think that I learned the trade, and I'm now reasonably good at it. And I now have 5 published. So that's where I am. I think the first book that we were going to talk about was sort of one of my later ones, my most recent one, which is a good place to start, I think, because it's perhaps topical reflection of today's politics globally, not just in our own particular countries. And it's one I've called No Free Speech for Hate. And what I'm exploring there is why did people vote for, say, Donald Trump, or in other countries? It's not only in America. We're seeing populist leaders of the same type who are rising in popularity in all over Europe, and indeed Brazil, Philippines. You know, wherever you want to look, there are these populist leaders. There has to be something that pushes people in that direction. And what my No Free Speech for Hate book is about is actually putting up a mirror to the liberals as to why people dislike them. Because I think that liberals generally don't understand this. They don't understand why people, you know, we're right. You know, we're what we're saying is we're the goodies. Why are people rejecting it? They must be ignorant. They don't know what they're doing. And I'm trying to sort of put a mirror up to say, well, look, actually, you're not particularly attractive. This is why you're unattractive. So what my book explores is it's a university, set in a university in the UK. And it's exploring, if you like, what you might want to call the woke culture. But what I'm highlighting is that this is like a religion. It has its own creed, which you deviate from at your peril. If you're in that field, if you're in the liberal establishment in something like the news media, or universities, or academia, anything where kind of left of center, if you like, if you deviate from the creed in any significant way, you are hounded, you are thrown out, you're a heretic, practically burned at the stake. And we're seeing this with people who are radical feminists who don't go along with the modern idea about genders. These people are now ostracized. They can't. They lose their jobs. They can't publish. They lose their livelihoods completely. They're ostracized by their former colleagues, former friends, just because they deviate from a very rigid set of beliefs. So I'm exploring this in No Free Speech for Hate, which is set in a fictional university in Britain. And it's a kind of enclosed community where it has its own culture, and it leaves out everybody who doesn't have a college degree, or they're a kind of I suppose, an underclass, because one thing that's happened in recent years is that we've seen everything practically become a graduate profession. If you don't go to college and get a degree, you're nobody. You have to do dead-end jobs, have no influence at all. You're dismissed as being ignorant. And I think if you're in that, if you like, excluded class, then it's not surprising you're resentful and you resort to voting for populists who want to throw all that aside. So that's what the book is exploring, and I'm basing it on sort of real characters, real things that have happened, primarily in the UK, because that's where I'm from. I'm from England, so I'm sort of setting it in English environment. But I think the things I'm writing about would be equally applicable, certainly equally applicable in the United States, and in probably many other European countries as well.
So, Stephen, what got you into writing these books?
I think it's the frustration of seeing these events unfolding in front of us, and I want to do something about it. I want to write about it. This latest book, the No Free Speech for Hate, is probably my most overtly political. They're not a series, these books. Each one, I'm exploring a different topic, a different idea in each book. So some of my other books about other things. For example, Destiny of a Free Spirit, which is my first one, is a futuristic book after a nuclear war set in the far future. But here I'm exploring what it is to be human. Although it covers things like what does the world look like in this post-nuclear war environment? What's the new the new ethos, the new regime that exists? And there's something called the Commission that controls everything in this new environment, which is not clear what exactly it is. But let's just say it's not human. So I'm exploring, you might guess, artificial intelligence. But sorry.
So, Stephen, is that why there's a split in the book?
Yeah, the splits in these the cover there is between the two realms that have been set up by the Commission. So one I've called Economica, which is like the modern world. But even more bells and whistles than we have today. Everything with robots, everything automated. Everybody's every need taken care of by in this new environment, or technological environment. And the other one is ecologia, because what the Commission has done is it's set up large tracts of the world to be nature reserves, to try and re-establish the environment. So the trend is ecologia grows, the more and more of the world becomes wild, and economica gradually shrinks. So that's the concept. The people are still fed and everything because food production is automated in chemical vats, if you like. It's synthetic food that is mass produced. It doesn't require large tracts of farmland that we have today, apart from which, of course, there's been a nuclear war and a lot of the farmland has been polluted by nuclear fallout. So the wild world is populated by Stone Age people who are not allowed any kind of technology, and they coexist with creatures that have been reintroduced, like mammoths and saber cats and things like that, as well as every other type of animal. It's a sort of recreation of the Pleistocene world in which human beings evolved, and the two are kept rigidly separate, and the Commission doesn't allow anybody to pass between the two. However, the hero of the book has found a portal between the two worlds, and has set himself up as with a an existence in both worlds. And the end of the book comes when the portal is about to be closed, and he has to choose which of the two worlds, ecologia or economica, he's going to settle in. And you don't know until the last chapter which he chooses. So that's the
So you got to read the whole book.
You've got to read the whole book, yeah.
So Stephen, how do you get the covers for your books?
Well, the covers were produced by my publishers. Yeah, some of them I'm more happy with than others. I think Walking Out of This World, which we'll cover later, is probably the cover I like the most. But I'm not a sufficiently good artist to do my own, unfortunately.
Well, let's jump into book 3 and then book 4 and 5. And then I have some questions here for you, Stephen, that have come in.
Sure. Okay, well, the Glastonbury Triangle. Yeah, that's the book I had the most fun with, because I just let myself go wild with that one. I don't know whether people will be aware, but Glastonbury is a town in England that is full of myth, legend, alternative lifestyles, and it's a sort of a magnet for hippies, if you like, or anybody who wants to live a little bit alternative, pagans, alternative Eastern religions, crystals, New World things. So it's a sort of it's a real weird place to go. I spent a little bit of time there, sort of getting the atmosphere, and it's really something else.
So Stephen, where does the bowl come in?
Sorry, where's
the bowl come in? I see a bowl.
Oh, in that. Well, yeah. I'll better explain that. One of the things I feature there is a theme park, or a marquis, an eccentric marquis who runs theme parks, or a theme park, and he wants to develop them into more theme parks. So his original theme park is King Arthur based, because the Arthurian legends are very much tied in with Glastonbury, apart from other things. So it's all about Sir Lancelot and Queen Guinevere and the Arthurian knights, that sort of thing. But he aspires to set up another theme park, which is based on ancient Greek mythology. And ancient Greek mythology includes mythical beasts, one of which is a minotaur. And so the bull there is a minotaur. But I don't know if you know what a minotaur is. It's a sort of half bull, half human. But there's other mythical creatures like satyrs, which are sort of half goat, half human. Centaurs, human and horse combination, and so on. So the idea is he wants to populate this theme park with these creatures. And as a mad scientist who he employs to develop these creatures for him, and there are also people disappearing, being sucked into a strange cult, and including the main character is a journalist who goes and explores these things, and his girlfriend is one of the ones who've disappeared. And it's called the Glastonbury Triangle because, a bit like the Bermuda Triangle, people are disappearing. And he gets sucked into the cult, follows all the leads into these things. And he's there just in time to prevent his girlfriend being turned into a mermaid. So that's sort of the thrust of the book.
So you take us on a wild ride. That's why you had a lot of fun with this book.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, certainly did.
Well, let's get into the book 4.
Okay, Walking Out of This World. Excuse me, I might cough. This is exploring the paranormal. So I'm into spirits here, and this is partly based on my own experience, if you like, because I'm the walk secretary in the Long Distance Walkers Association, for which is, as the name implies, we walk long distances, long distance hiking, that sort of thing. And I feature an organisation I've called the Far and Fast Walkers Society, which is, I didn't want to use our own name in case they sued me, but it's essentially the similar thing. And they're going on up one of their regular walks, their regular hikes, and a new member turns up, and there's something strange about him. He knows things about people. He talks to people in the group, and he somehow connects with them in a strange way that they can't explain. And it's bad weather. It's wet, cold, and the walk leader has arranged for them all to stop for their lunch break in a clearing in the forest. And this new guy says, well, why don't you come round to the local pub that I know? You can all go into the warm fire, nice hot soup, and be much more comfortable. And the walk leader says, well, no, it's nonsense. There's nothing here. I know the area. I know there's no such place. But this guy persuades them that there is, and he knows one, and he takes them to this place. But it's a place not on any map. It's a nostalgic place where they meet people from their past. They reconnect with people who they're former lovers, who from way back they've fallen out of touch with. And it sort of sucks them into a might have been, what could have been if things had taken a different path in their youth. And everyone gets seduced into this world, and they want to keep coming back. But later on in the book, another character appears, and I've called her Lucifix. And as you might imagine, it's the devil in female form. And I've chosen to make her female because I think the female are more inventive about the evil they do. It's more subtle than the male badness would be. I think the male madness would be, more rough and tough. But she's much more subtle and can play with people's psychology. And she draws people into a completely different place where all their regrets and fears are explored.
So, do you want to grab some water?
Yeah, if I had one. Oh, I got some over here. Yeah. Yeah. Good plan. Yes. Yeah. I hope that might be better. Have a go. But so it's basically turns into a fight between these two spirits, the good spirit and the bad spirit. And as a rescue, the Lucifix has killed Miles, who's the good spirit, but he's resurrected. And after he's resurrected, he redeems people. So it's sort of a religious overtone there about good and evil, a few Christian sort of ideas woven into it. And eventually the people are rescued from the bad place. And that sort of comes to a head in the book. So that's what that book's about.
Well, let's get into the last one, and then we'll get into some questions that came in.
Okay, right. To keep us all safe, this is a book about a fictional pandemic. So it's kind of loosely based on the COVID pandemic, but it's a different disease I've called chimopox. But I'm exploring all the cultural aspects of what came in the lockdowns, the sort of everyone getting all paranoid about being infected, and enforcing it, all the precautions against the disease, the backlash, the anti-vax people. So it's a sort of a story, but where a guy has been expelled from Vietnam. He'd been abroad a long time, and they expelled him back to England, where he has to stay with his uncle and auntie, because according to the Vietnamese, the disease is a foreign disease and they have to throw out all foreigners, because the answer to everything is to throw out the foreigners naturally. So I kind of cover that part of it. And then he's in his strange land because he hasn't been in England for nearly 20 years. And he has to kind of reestablish his existence there. And he gets sucked into all these different aspects of what's going on with the pandemic. So I've called it "To Keep Us All Safe" because that's the slogan about all the precautions which are imposed on people. You know, it's to keep you safe, and the people don't like the loss of freedom. So it's that sort of tension between the keeping people safe and the loss of freedom.
So, Stephen, what was the first book you wrote?
Destiny of a Free Spirit was the first one.
And how long did it take you to write that one?
Well, I think actually once I got the idea and I got the framework about what I want to write about, it typically takes me about 4 or 5 months to write a book. That's a rough time frame. So it's not that, and that's not writing flat out. You know, probably doing maybe 3 hours a day, something like that. So it's not. I don't find it hugely. It needs quite a lot of careful thought, and I do need, and I can't really do more than about three hours a day because I can't get the mental focus sustained for much longer than that. And it really does need a lot of mental focus to keep the whole thing hanging together and to choose the right words really carefully and that kind of thing. But I think it takes longer to get the idea, the basic structure, the basic concept right. So that takes me. I spend an awful lot of time not writing anything, just sort of dreaming into space before it sort of comes together.
Well, each book you took us onto a different adventure. You took us into a different world. Is that what you wanted to do with each book, was take us in a different perspective?
Well, I thought to myself, supposing my first book, Destiny of a Free Spirit, took off, and somebody said, yeah, we want you to write a couple more dead quick. And we want it to be in a series. So I have actually got mapped out, not written yet, a couple of prequels to Destiny of a Free Spirit, which explain how the nuclear war arose and the aftermath of the nuclear war and how the new setup that I've described in Destiny of a Free Spirit came about. So I've got that sort of waiting sort of on the shelf, if you like, ready to be written. But in every case, before I did that, before I wrote those prequels, I got sidetracked onto something else and wanted to write a completely different book. So all my other books were just sort of complete fresh inspiration, new idea. So what my next one will be, I don't know. Whether it'll be I'll go back to the prequels I haven't written yet, or whether I'll go into a completely different track, I'm not sure. I think one thing that is shaping my mind at the moment is a book about love and hate, and sort of yin and yang and that kind of thing. It's a sort of
so a romance.
The opposite. Well, yeah, romance, but partly romance, yes, because I'm kind of what's inspiring me at the moment is, unfortunately, my wife has developed dementia. And I've had to put her in a care home, which is a tragic and heartbreaking thing to have to do. But we're still very much, we've been together for nearly 50 years and she's still very much in my life. And I think our love for each other is stronger than it's ever been, even in the current circumstances. So I kind of want to write about that. And I want to write about the experience that I get from that, how people are when somebody's disabled, and I'm getting some really beautiful things happen from just other people who are in the same situation or empathize with how we are.
Well, it's kind of like a new story, right? It's a new life. Yeah,
it is. And I think one of the things that I got quite cynical earlier on, because you feel that the terrible mess that humans make of the world, and you think, humans are really not very good people, and are we even fit to run the planet? And yet now I'm seeing the other side of the story. I think when you're in a university and you get good things happen to you from in a bad situation, but good things happen. You see the good side of people. Then I want to kind of write a bit about that as well.
I think you could write anything, because you've written 5 different genres in the 5 books that we've shared today. Stephen, what got you into the AI department, the artificial intelligence?
Well, I guess when I retired from IT, AI was just sort of starting to get going. It wasn't news headlines or anything at the moment, but certainly I was kind of involved with it, and I sort of saw its potential and fascinated by where it might go. So I've kept in touch with what's going on since, and I keep reading about it, and so to maintain some sort of understanding. And I think it is going to fundamentally change our existence. I think AI. I think, and I'm not sure that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that humans, we won't be I think AI ultimately is destined to be the new life form that takes over mastery of the planet. And I've actually thinking about it quite a bit. I think it probably make a better job of it than humans are, which is partly what Destiny of a Free Spirit is about.
Yeah, let's talk about the cover a little bit. For the audio listeners, could you just describe, Stephen, what the cover shows? I can see what it looks like, but for the audio listeners, just describe a little bit about that cover.
Okay, well, there's the cover splits 2 ways, and there's a man who's sort of split in half, as it were, showing his 2 existences. So one existence is the wild world, the ecologia world, and on the other existence is the world in economica, the modern world. And so it's just trying to illustrate, the split, if you like, and the choice he has to make between the 2 worlds.
And let's talk about this cover, the No Free Speech Hate. Let's talk about that cover.
The new No Free Speech for Hate. That is illustrating. I've got Windsor Castle in the background because that's the location, or near the location where this fictional university is. And the university is based on a very long-standing college that has existed on that site for many years, which people who in the UK will probably recognise once they get into the book, although don't actually spell it out till later on. And behind Windsor Castle, there's Runnymede, which is where Magna Carta was signed. So it's a very historical location for English history. And the background is that the monarchy has been abolished. So now Windsor Castle now has a sort of gay pride banner over it rather than a royal standard. The university is a mix of very modern buildings and the ancient medieval buildings that were there before blended together. And in the foreground, we have a conflict featured between the 2 polarized politics that exist. So there's, on one hand, you've got students or the university folk who are, if you like, that have the woke ideology. On the other side, we have the populist traditionalist who want to overthrow that new regime, which has been established by the universities in England.
So, Stephen, we had a question that came in, and it says, "How is free speech changing the world today?"
Well, yeah, this is. I think that free speech. People talk about free speech, but the very people who talk about it the most are the ones who want to suppress it the most. It's the impression I've got. I see. So we get on the left, on the liberal side, they claim to support free speech. But if anyone says anything that isn't according to their creed, then it's labelled as hate. We don't allow any free speech for hate. This is hateful, it's racist, it's something else, whatever else it might be. Misogynists who always have different phrases to condemn things they don't like, and they work very hard to suppress anything that isn't according to their creed. So they certainly don't practice free speech, even though they may claim to. And then, of course, this has not gone unnoticed by the populist right. And they point at the liberals and the left and say, well, you don't support free speech because you're suppressing all these people who are arguing against you. But there again, they do exactly the same thing, because anything which isn't in accordance to their point of view is again rigorously suppressed. And we're seeing it at the moment in the United States with, anything to do with DEI or anything that's sort of anything they might consider to be slightly woke. They're rigorously suppressing it, and they're as probably worse at suppressing free speech than the liberals that they complain about. So both the politics is totally polarized, and both poles of politics are trying to suppress free speech, as far as I can see.
So, Stephen, how is history teaching us about the future?
Well, it's quite interesting history, because you look back at it, and actually it's not that different in the past. Because if you look at Protestants versus Catholics, the sort of the way so-called heretics were treated, the sort of wars we had between Protestants and Catholics, it's not that different from how we're seeing today with the polarized politics of left and right. You see the same thing with Marxism, how it became a sort of political creed, and anyone who deviated from the sort of state official line that the Soviet Union or wherever it was, or Mao's China, if you deviated from what they thought, you were sent to a concentration camp or terminated in some way. And other cultures, Shia versus Sunni Muslims, have similar schism took place there. So wherever you look, any period in history, we'll see the same kind of tendencies. So I don't think we're seeing anything particularly new necessarily with what's going on today.
Stephen, what's a belief that changed your mind?
Okay, I think I used to believe in my youth, way back, that there was that somewhere over the rainbow there was an ideal way of running the world, and we only had to sort of figure out what that was, and then aim towards it and bring the world to a better place. And I think having seen what that kind of idealistic concept brings about, basically intolerance of anyone who deviates or doesn't think the same as you do, I have definitely changed my mind about that, and I think that we actually need a balance, and we need discussion. We do need free speech, and and essentially we need to be able to talk across the aisle. We need to be able to talk to people who believe differently to us in a civilized and friendly way, not just throw insults at them.
Stephen, what's humanity's greatest flaw?
I think fundamentally our instincts are the instincts we needed to live in the African bush, the where we evolved, the Pleistocene world, where we shared with dangerous animals. And so we have a lot of instincts that are suitable for that survival in that environment, which are fundamentally unsuitable for the modern world, technological world that we created. So we're not a species that's evolved to live harmoniously in the world that we currently live in.
Stephen, for your two, you gave me taking everything apart. What are we taking apart?
Okay, well, I suppose that's just my philosophy. I like to look at things and then pull them to pieces and just see what they consist of and why they are the way they are. So I think that's what I do in my books. And I'm not trying to say any particular point of view is right. I like to explore things from every angle. And it's the process of taking things apart that is it helps to achieve that.
So you like dissecting everything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you a fisherman, Stephen?
Am I? Sorry. Say again.
Are you a fisherman?
No, I'm not a fisherman. No.
No. You like taking things apart, so I thought maybe you'd like to dissect a fish.
Oh, okay. I suppose the last thing I dissected was actually a frog. I had to do that in biology at school to dissect a frog.
You just said that you like to take things apart, so I thought I could see you as a fisherman taking all the bones out of the fish.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it gives me pleasure doing that to living creatures, to be honest. But there is. I'm not a vegan or a anti-vivisectionist or anything like that. But I don't necessarily like the process of doing that to living creatures.
So, Stephen, when you hear the word adversity, what comes to mind for you?
For me, it's a challenge. I think I thrive in adversity. I think that's when I come into my own, just looking back at my life and how I respond to things. Maybe that's something that the humans do. I think that, when things are get tough, it sometimes brings out the best in people, best and the worst, but it can bring out good things in people.
I asked you to give me one word to describe yourself, and you gave me curious. Why curious?
I think I like to understand things. So if when I go to a new place, I like to wander around in all the back streets and look behind the scenes and try to figure out where things are and what goes on there in every field. Yeah. You lost something. Hi.
There we go.
Liz looks like she's having computer problems.
Stephen, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
I can.
Okay, Stephen, keep talking. I'm just going to check. I've lost sound on my end.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, while Liz looks around, I guess looking at my life right now, I was talking earlier about some of the good things that happened to me with with my wife and her dementia and her physical problems, and I was taking her out of the care home into the village where she now resides, to around near a church which is nearby, and it was a bright frosty day, so a little bit cold, but bright sunshine and beautiful day with crocuses out under the trees, and this very nice gentleman came out, and he offered us a coffee, and he was a guy running a help center that the church has. It runs from their church hall, and it happened to be open that day. and it's there to provide people with poor people with food parcels, give help to anybody who needs help. And I guess he thought we were sitting out, Daphne in her wheelchair and me sat on the bench there, that maybe we were somebody he could reach out to. So he said, would we like a coffee? And I said, that'd be lovely. He came along, gave us a nice hot coffee, and we were sitting there enjoying the coffee that this kind gentleman had brought us. And then we were just holding hands and enjoying life together, the two of us. And then this other gentleman came past and he said, your love shines through. I can just see it. You've inspired me to write a poem. And I thought, there are good people in this world. You know, there's the guy who came out, who runs this centre for the people, for poorer people in the community. He reached out to us, maybe slightly disadvantaged, with Daphne in a wheelchair, and we still love each other despite the way things have turned out, and so I guess we look like a loving couple together, and then we inspired this other gentleman who just wanted to write poetry about us, and I just thought, there are good people in this world. There are people with heart in the world, and even just, you know, going from that's Daphne's care home, crossing the road. If we got a wheelchair, people just stop. The traffic just stops and lets us cross. People see that and they respond. And people in the shops, you know, we just go past the shops and pass the time of day. There are some. It's when you're in that situation you realise that there are good people out there, and that's something I think at some point I'd like to write about. I'd like to write about the good things people do. Because I've written, my books have mostly focused on maybe the bad aspects of humanity, the way we're destroying the planet, the way we're horrible to each other, the way we kill each other, and there's that very unpleasant side of humanity, but there's also the good side, and I think I want to write at some point. I want to write about the good things that people do. Hi, Liz, you seem to be back.
I am back. Can you hear me, Stephen?
I can, yeah.
My hearing aid box just died on me, so I'm on a different speaker. I'm so sorry for that, everybody. My hearing aids, I'm not sure what happened.
Hopefully I filled the gap okay.
You know, and when we're live, we just got to keep going, right? The show just must go on. So thank you for holding up for that, Stephen. I really appreciate it. We did have a couple more questions that I want to get out to you before we wrap up. Do you believe that technology is more likely to save humanity or control it?
I think both, actually, because I think it as I see it, I've thought about it quite a lot, and I think that artificial intelligence probably will take over as the controlling force, but I think in so doing, it is probably our savior as well. I think it'll both control and save us.
And in No Free Speech for Hate, who truly holds power and why?
Okay, well, the scenario at the start of the book is that the universities has become, if you like the new equivalent of the medieval church, immensely powerful in terms of its not in terms of guns or physical control, more in terms of the controlling the ethos of the age, which is what we saw in if you go back to medieval times, you had the two powers. You had the church, which was the moral power, if you like, and you had the physical power of the king and the barons and the lords and the knights and so on, who had the swords and lances. But everyone was really subservient to the church because they daren't cross the church. They couldn't. If you said something that was heretical, you would be in terrible trouble. So I think that's where we are with the universities, and they've expanded their remits. They've got to a point where roughly half the population now goes to college, and they have it as a captive audience for 3-4 years where they can indoctrinate those people. And then those people are going on to run society, because nobody who doesn't go to college really has any influence at all, and can't get into any position of authority or influence. So that's the world that is the establishment, if you like, when I come into the book, and I think that's not far off where we are. But there's a lot of people who are excluded from that, who are not happy with that situation, and that's where the populist leaders come in. So in the book, there's a revolution, and the populist leader leads the mass, the great unwashed, the uneducated, and they overthrow this establishment and reinstate the monarchy, traditional values, all the things which the old establishment has denigrated and tried to do away with. And that's the end of the book. The book there's been this revolution, and the populist side has taken control, which mirrors very much what has happened in the United States, with Trump overthrowing the liberal establishment. But I'm in writing the book, I'm trying to explore all the aspects of why that is and how that came about.
We had a question. You mentioned universities, and it says, how do universities function as cultural power centers in your work?
Well, I think that's my main central message, is that they have become cultural power centers, and they control the narrative, they control the ethos of the age. There are consequences of that, and that's what I'm exploring.
Another question that came in is, how did your IT background shape your understanding of AI dangers and promises?
Well, I spent 40 years sort of designing, developing large, complex systems. So I understand such systems, and I also understand the potential of AI, and how once those systems develop intelligence of their own, rather than just relying on the intelligence of the programmers and designers, how powerful that can be.
Stephen, why are well-meaning systems often the most dangerous?
I think they have a certitude that they're right, and therefore are intolerant of any alternative point of view. And I think that intolerance is totalitarian, and is oppressive in its own right, but it also fosters a reaction for people who are opposed to it, who then you can create a violent and confrontational opposition to that.
And what role should writers play in raising uncomfortable alarms?
What? Say this again.
What role should writers play in raising uncomfortable alarms?
Okay, writers. Yeah, I think we have it's very. I think writers have a very important role here, because and I think I think a lot of writers probably get it wrong because they write polemics. They take one point of view. They assume that point of view is 100% right. They know everything. All these other people are terrible, and they sort of just feed the polarization. And I think what a good writer does is explores the thing dispassionately, in a way that doesn't necessarily take sides, and puts new insight into why things are the way they are. And I think, I mean, I've tried to do, that's what I try to do in my books. But I think if you look at, some of the good writers of the past, the H.G. Wells, the George Orwell's, Huxley, C.S. Lewis. There's those are writers who are trying to throw light on things and not just grind an axe. So they obviously have a point of view. The writing is best if it lets the reader gain the insight from just reading the shape of it rather than just being told what to think.
And Stephen, what are you hoping your readers get from each of your books? Because you have done different perspectives and different genres of books. So what do you want the readers to get from your books?
I think what I have in common with all the books is I want to make the reader think. So I'm trying to, whatever perspective they come into reading the book from any political attitude or belief, I want them to go away with a better understanding of the overall picture rather than just what they could come in with, and an understanding that there's more to it than whatever they came into it with, which is probably a relatively narrow point of view.
And Stephen, do you have any upcoming events that you'd like to bring up, or any upcoming shows that you'd like to mention?
No, not especially at the moment. As I said, I'm sort of in a thinking mode as to where I go with my next books, and I'm obviously my personal situation with my wife's situation is taking up a lot of my attention at the moment. So no great initiatives, but it will come. I promise you. I've got more books in me yet.
And what final message do you have for everybody today?
I think remember that you're not necessarily right about everything. It doesn't matter who you are, what your point of view is. There's other points of view out there that have validity, and keep an open mind. Be prepared to discuss. Be nice to people, even if you don't agree with them. I think we need clean debate again.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We can care to disagree, but we can still like each other.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Well, Stephen, I want to thank you for joining me on Tea Time and for sharing your books and that with my audience. I want to thank my listeners for listening to Stephen while Miss Liz had some little technical issues, and that, when we're going live, anything can happen, but the show must still go on. So Stephen, thank you for that. I'm just going to do a wrap up of what today's Tea Time was, and we're going to wrap it up, and we'll be back at 3 and at 7 again with 2 more Tea Times. Stephen, thank you for sharing your journey with us. What stands out to me is this: reinvention has no age limit. After 40 years in one career, you chose to ask bigger questions. You choose to create. You choose to explore what it means to be human in a world incredibly shaped by machines. To everyone listening today, reflect on this. What chapter of your life are you afraid to begin? Are you allowing your past career to define your future identity? What questions about humanity matters deeply enough for you to speak on? Stephen's journey reminds us that evolution is intentional, that curiosity keeps us alive, and that sometimes the most powerful work begins after we think our main career is over. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and never stop asking what it means to be fully human. And I'll see everybody same time, same place, and we'll do this all over again. And this afternoon, we have Dr. Peter Cotton joining us, and tonight we have Luke Mickelson coming in. So incredible tea time. So keep sharing, keep being true to yourself. And Stephen, thank you again for joining me on Tea Time. But before we wrap up, Stephen, we have 30 seconds left. I'm just going to get you to spell out your website for all the listeners so they can check out your website.
Okay. Sorry, you want me to share it or something? I've got it on my screen, but I'm not sure how I share that.
There we go. I got it.
Okay. That's it. Yeah. stephenford.co.uk. That's it.
Well, thank you guys. And so it's stephenfor.co.uk/BOOKS/. And you can find all of Stephen's books there. And I want to thank you again, Stephen, for joining me and this incredible tea time. And we'll see everybody same time, same place, and we'll do this all over again.
Okay, bye. Great to be on the show.